Adam was a young boy who lived in Russia a long time ago. And Adam's life was very different from yours. When Adam wanted to eat eggs, his family didn't get them from a store. Adam went and got them from a chicken. And when Adam was cold, he didn't turn up an app on his phone. He had to go chop wood for a fire. And when Adam went into town, he didn't go in a car. He rode in a cart that was pulled by a horse. And Adam didn't go to a big school with lots of students. He and the other boys in his village went to Adam's grandfather's house. And at Adam's grandfather's house, they learned the stories of the Jewish people, and they learned how to read and how to write in Hebrew. And all of this was very special to Adam. But the most special thing of all to Adam was his name. Because one day, Adam had asked his grandfather, "Grandfather, why is my name Adam?" And Adam's grandfather smiled, and he stroked his beard. And then Adam's grandfather led Adam into the small synagogue in their village, and they sat down by a window, and Adam closed his eyes, and he could feel the warm sun shining on his face. And Adam's grandfather said, "You are named Adam, and you are named after my grandfather, whose name was also Adam. And he was named after his grandfather's grandfather, whose name was also Adam. And this way in the world, there will always be an Adam." And Adam smiled, and he whispered in his grandfather's ear, "I will always be Adam. That will never change." And Adam's grandfather smiled, and he stroked his beard, and he said, "Aha, some things change, but some things don't." And then things in Russia started to change a lot. There wasn't enough food, and people were very hungry. There were soldiers all the time in Adam's village, and people were very afraid. Finally, Adam's family said, "It is not safe for us here. We need to go to a place very, very, very far away from here, where it will be safer. So far away that we can probably never come back." And Adam's grandfather said, "You must go without me. I am too old to change anymore." And Adam said, "I don't want to leave you, grandfather. What if I never see you again?" And Adam's grandfather took his talit, his prayer shawl, and he said to Adam, "This is my talit. It was given to me by my grandfather, whose name was also Adam. And now I am giving it to you." And Adam held it close to his chest, and he said, "I am always Adam, and this is my always talit." And with tears in his eyes, he said, "That will never change." Then Adam and his family went on a very long journey. They traveled for weeks and weeks and weeks until they reached a village by the sea. And there they boarded a big boat. And they traveled for weeks and weeks and weeks over the ocean until they came to a new country. And in the new country, a great many things changed for Adam. Adam and his family lived in a tiny apartment in a very big city. And things were very hard for Adam and his family. But people took care of them. Sometimes it was people they knew from their village. Sometimes it was the Jewish community. Sometimes it was perfect strangers. But slowly, 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 Adam and his family started to find their way. Adam's parents went to work in a factory. And Adam went to school where he learned English and science and math. And Adam grew up, and every Saturday, Adam would go into the synagogue, and he would take his grandfather's talit, and he would wrap it around his shoulders, and he would say, "I am always Adam, and this is my always talit. Things kept changing for Adam. He grew up, he got older, he got married. He went to work in an office long hours every day, but every Saturday, he would get out his talit, he would go to synagogue, he would wrap it around him, and he would say, I am always Adam, and this is my always talit. Soon the fringes, the tzitzit started to wear out, so Adam sewed on new ones. Things kept changing for Adam. Adam and his wife had children. They moved to the outskirts of town. Adam traveled in every day to work in his office. And still on Saturdays, he would wrap himself in his talit and say, I am always Adam, and this is my always talit. Eventually, the collar wore out, so he had to sew on a new one. Things changed and changed for Adam. Adam's children grew up and moved out and got married. Adam and his wife got older and older, and eventually they went to live in a special house with other old people. And still, every Saturday, Adam would go to the small synagogue in that special house, and he would put on his talit, and he would say, I am always Adam, and this is my... Eventually, the cloth wore out, so Adam sewed on new cloth. One day, Adam's granddaughter came to visit. And she said to Adam, Adam, Grandpa, were you ever a kid like me? And Adam thought for a minute, and he smiled, and he stroked his beard, and he said, I was like you, but I was also not like you. When I wanted eggs, I didn't get them from a store. We had to get them from a chicken. And when I was cold, I couldn't turn up an app on my phone. I had to chop wood for a fire. And when I went into town, I didn't ride in a fancy schmancy car. I had to go in a cart that was pulled by a horse. And I didn't go to a big school with lots of students. I went to my grandfather's house where he taught me very many special lessons. And Adam's granddaughter said, Grandpa, can you teach me something that your grandfather taught you? And Adam thought for a minute, and he said, I can try. And then he led his granddaughter into the small synagogue where he lived. And they sat down on a bench by the window. And Adam wrapped his talit around his granddaughter. And she closed her eyes, and both of them could feel the warm sun shining on their face. And Adam said, this is my always talit. It has changed a great many times, and yet it is still my talit. The fringes have changed. The collar has changed. Even the cloth has changed, and yet it is still my always talit. And in that way, it is a lot like me. I have changed and changed and changed in my lifetime, said Adam's grandfather, and yet I am still me. This talit was given to me by my grandfather, and it was given to him by his grandfather, whose name was also Adam. And someday, Adam said to his granddaughter, I will give it to you. And Adam's granddaughter smiled, and she reached up to her grandfather, and she whispered in his ear, someday I will have a grandson, and we will name him Adam, and I will give him this talit, and that way there will always be an Adam, and this will be his always talit. And Adam smiled, and he stroked his beard, and he said, aha, now I can teach you something my grandfather taught me. Some things change, and some things don't. Shana Tova.